Today on CityCast Philly, it's the Friday News Roundup. We're talking about the latest from the tragic plane crash in Northeast Philly and what the city is doing to help victims. Governor Josh Shapiro gave his budget address this week. What's he proposing? And get those whistles, beads, and all your Eagles gear. The city is pumped for the Super Bowl. Go Birds! It's Friday, February 7th. I'm Trinae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Joining me this week is Matt Katz, executive producer here at CityCast Philly. Hey, Matt.
Hey, guys.
And Abby Fritz. Hey, Abby. She's our CityCast Philly producer.
Morning, Trinae.
We are not at the Fiddler Club today because it was kind of a snow day. Kind of an ice day.
Did you guys survive the big snow day? The big snowstorm? The massive blizzard that shut down Philadelphia public schools and sent hundreds of thousands of parents and children's schedule into disarray, including mine?
Matt, I feel like you have some feelings about this.
I got to get something off my chest. Listen, I know people cannot, and our officials cannot perfectly predict what the weather is going to be. But we were back to virtual learning in my house on Thursday because both of my kids who go to Philly schools were home, and it was very much 2020 vibes with the virtual learning and very much a reminder of how this doesn't really work very well, guys. So the school district has set aside just one real snow day for this current year, and that means all other days where they decide the weather is inclement, they have to do virtual learning. And, okay. From what I saw in my house, and I'm not naming names, but there was side FaceTime with friends. There was a lot of commentary on, people's homes, including teachers' homes, and requests for tours of teachers' homes. There was introductions to stuffies, which is, adorable, but also not necessarily relevant to the learning experience. Class started at 8:50 a.m. and there was a break at 9:10 a.m. and then the class ended, school ended at 10:50. So I don't really understand what we're doing here, people. Like, build 3 snow days into the calendar, right? And those snow days should be real snow days. Let the kids out and go sledding if there's actual snow. And then if it doesn't snow, just give the days back in June. I don't really get it. Or my other suggestion, for days like this where it's just like crappy out and there might be some issues with teachers getting to the schools or whatever, do like a big assignment. Send the kids home with something long to read and write, or make them watch a documentary and write something about it. The idea of everybody logging on and dealing with all their tech issues for a half hour and then talking about nonsense for another half hour and then learning for 15 minutes and then logging off is nonsensical in my mind. I'm just a parent observing. And I'm no educator, but those are my 2 cents. And man, I feel a lot better having gotten that off my chest. Rant over. Thanks.
Yeah, when I went outside on Thursday morning, I went to, scrape the ice off the car, and it was just melting even as I was scraping. So I was like, we had a 2-hour delay.
You had a 2-hour delay. Yeah, a lot of other districts had a 2-hour delay. A lot of the schools had a 2-hour delay.
Some schools, yeah.
It was
virtual,
different things.
No school.
It is so disruptive to parents, man. I mean, people have to work. You don't necessarily have childcare. We found out about this around 5 p.m. on Wednesday, that there would be virtual school on Thursday. I know that there's some consideration to like what this does to parents, but it just doesn't seem to make any sense. It feels like the worst of both worlds. You're not getting learning and you're not getting the kids out of the house. It's like, yeah, nothing's working.
Ended the school day at 10:50? Wow.
They then had assignments to do after that. But yes, they logged off at 10:50.
Interesting.
I want that schedule.
Right? Matt, how come you don't give that schedule to us?
Because if I was running the school district, I would work everybody really hard, just like I do you guys.
All right. There is a lot to get through in this episode. We got to start with the latest updates from the plane crash last Friday.
By early this week, authorities seemed to have cleared the scene, had really returned things back to normal. Roosevelt Mall reopened, the intersections reopened, and the investigation, of course, continues. And the major revelation we had in the last several days was that the medical examiner's office had identified that victim on the ground. We knew that all 6 people on board the plane had died, and we had their names at the beginning of the week. We learned this week the name of the man who died on the ground, who was in a car, 37-year-old Stephen Druitt of Mount Airy. He was in a vehicle when the jet crashed on Friday, and he was heading to Macy's, according to published reports, at the Roosevelt Mall when he was with his fiance and his son in the car when this happened. His fiance is reportedly critically injured, suffering burns to much of her body, and his son is still hospitalized, also with severe burns. So we send our prayers to that family, and we're also just thankful that there weren't more victims. It does feel really miraculous that a crash in such a busy section of the city on a Friday evening did not result in more confirmed deaths so far. So we're thankful for that.
Yeah, man, this was so crazy. I also want to mention that this week, we talked about this on Sunday when we kind of got together, and it had been such a long weekend of updates, and first responders, city officials, investigators were working around the clock to, get to the bottom of all of this. There was a scheduled town hall meeting on Wednesday at S. Solis Cohen Elementary School. And here's what kind of came out of that. Mayor Sherrell Parker spoke about unity and the city being resilient, especially the community in Northeast Philly. I know a lot of people were also trying to figure out how they could help. And so the One Philly Fund, which was created by the Parker administration in collaboration with the Philadelphia City Fund, is accepting donations for victims of the January 31st plane crash. So you can check that out at philicityfund.org/onephilly. And we'll have a link in the show notes on that. There was, updates, there were vigils and, folks singing and coming together. And there were reports, that the community feels like, it's going to take some time, to bring things, quote unquote, to normal. One, kind of great update is from Andre Howard. He is that 10-year-old boy who was in the car with his dad and sister during the crash, and he was injured with metal sticking out the side of his head. Reports say that he did wake up this week, and one of the first things that he said is he asked his dad, did he miss the Super Bowl? And the dad said, no, you didn't miss the Super Bowl. And he also asked, Daddy, did I save my sister?
Oh, my God. And he did, right,
And he
Trinae? I
did.
mean, it seems
He
like
did.
he told her to duck, right, in the car. His little sister, incredible. His parents called him a superhero.
Yes.
Which he is.
Just the outpouring, came through all over the city, even to the Philadelphia Eagles. Our Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver, A.J. Brown, called Andre a superhero as well. And he tweeted on X saying, I'm going to come see you when I get back, hopefully with some hardware, playing for you on Sunday, my man.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
The children in this incident really felt a disproportionate brunt of the horror. One of the passengers on board, of course, was this 12-year-old girl from Mexico who had been treated for a spinal condition for several months in Philadelphia. She was headed back home with her mother. She died. There's the 9-year-old boy we mentioned earlier who suffered severe burns, whose father died in the crash, who was in a car. There's Andre, of course. And then there was a girl whose house was burned on the ground in Northeast Philly, and she lost her violin. Community, though, came together, gave her a new violin. But I really was heartbroken this week just reading all of these stories about the kids who it seems unfathomable that they had to face something like this at such a young age.
Yeah.
For sure. We've got more news after the break. All right, we've got some news happening in the state. In Harrisburg, Governor Josh Shapiro announced his budget proposal on Tuesday.
Yeah, he did. He made some big swings in his proposal that came out to $51.5 billion. But I think the first thing to remember is that this is just a proposal. It has not been officially passed by the State House and Senate, so nothing is set in stone yet, and things will likely be debated and tweaked, if not entirely changed. So a lot of this is kind of just a starting point to bounce off of. But just to go over some of the interesting highlights that you should keep an eye on as these things get finalized. So I was reading an Inquirer article that talked about his proposal to legalize recreational cannabis. And he also proposed taxing skill games, which are those machines you see in gas stations and corner stores that kind of resemble slot machines. And he's trying to do this to create more revenue for the state. He's also proposing raising the minimum wage to $15, which he did try to do this last year and it didn't pan out.
$15 an hour, right?
Yeah, up to $15 an hour, which he says would increase revenue for the state from wage taxes. And those are kind of big picture things in the state level. But some things that could really affect Philly's city budget. SEPTA would get $165 million, according to the Inquirer article, which could help avoid some service cuts. Because right now, with their current budget, they're looking at a 20% cut of services because they have a $213 million deficit. So that would definitely help out there. They'd still have to trim some fat, but I think that would definitely alleviate some pressure I'm sure SEPTA is feeling. And then in terms of Philly schools, they could be getting $200 million, according to Chalkbeat Philadelphia. This would be going into places like money for school repairs and special ed and student mental health, things like that. And the governor's proposing this to specifically address the ruling that happened back in 2023, declaring that the state school funding formula was unconstitutional. But some advocates are saying that this increase really isn't enough and doesn't even keep up with inflation. So we'll see, what happens there.
That could be some legal challenges if it's not enough, right?
Oh, totally. Totally could. I mean, that's what happened in 2023. So
right.
Could definitely see it happening again. That's a very brief overview of some of the bigger things. We're going to keep our eye out on the story, especially as debates ensue and the budget is finalized, which I think will happen likely in the summer, but you never know.
We've got more news after the break.
They can't play on my court, can't hang with the big dogs, stay on the porch, blow the whistle.
All right, the team fans are down in New Orleans, gearing up for the big game and the Big Easy. What is the city doing to prepare for the celebrations?
They are doing so much, and I'm going to get the boring stuff out the way. So first, SEPTA is adding extra service on Sunday, so if you're trying to go up Broad, there are going to be a couple more trains there for you. Also, keep an eye out for no parking zones, which they're already starting to put signs up. I live in South Philly, and I've seen some around Broad. So they're already closing stuff off. Also, some businesses are closing for the day, like the Chiefs Bar in South Philly.
I saw that.
Yeah. They closed last time the Eagles were in the Super Bowl with them, too. And that's
so funny.
Probably a good decision.
Well, I hope they stay home and hide.
In fear. Oh, my God. But in more fun news, everyone is getting so excited. On Tuesday, a new mural dedicated to the Eagles was unveiled in South Philly. It's a really cool, beautiful eagle, and there are a ton of parties. I, as of Thursday, saw a cool deal at La Chinesca, a Mexican restaurant up on Spring Garden. For $120, you can get an open bar, seating, a really big projector playing the game, and a food buffet with wings, street dogs, nachos. Like, what? That's a great deal. And if you're comfortable with standing, you can get all of that for $96, which honestly, I feel like just for drinks alone, like 4 cocktails, pays for itself.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Oh, my
That's
gosh.
amazing.
And it's Spring Garden. It's a, couple blocks from Broad Street.
Yeah, you'd be
yeah.
right in the mix there. You can walk over, sure.
Yeah.
After a couple drinks, you'll run there. You'll be jogging.
Amazing. That sounds great. We have up on philly.citycast.fm right now. We have this great bandwagoners guide to the 2024 Eagles because a lot of you out there, maybe you didn't watch every game. Maybe you're just kind of tuning in now and trying to figure out what's going on, but you're going to be up at, La Chinesca or where another amazing Super Bowl party somewhere, and you want to be able to, talk the talk and figure out what's going on. Siani Colon, our newsletter editor, wrote this great guide for newbies to the Eagles. You can get a summary of the team's success so far this year. You can learn these terms that you might have heard but don't really understand what they mean, like the Baldiani era about Coach Sirianni and how once he shaved his head, we started going on a winning streak. You can learn about the exciting whites. You can learn about Big Dom. You can learn about the brotherly shove, a.k.a. the tush push. So if you are not a hardcore fan, check out our website. Check out the guide, and we'll catch you up so you won't, so you'll be legit on Sunday.
As an Eagles fan, but not someone who watches a ton of games, this was very helpful to me. So thank you, Siani.
Right. Listen, Matt, Abby, I just want to apologize.
Yeah.
My voice over the last 2 weeks was all over the place. I've been sick. I squeezed out so many EAGLES Eagles chants since our NFC Championship win. I'm really sorry. But if you were also like me and didn't know how to properly protect your voice, I read this really interesting article in the Inquirer that had some helpful tips from a Drexel vocal health expert. And this is what he said. This came from Robert Santaloff, who's the chair of Drexel's ear, nose, and throat department. His tips: warm up your voices by singing a gentle version of Happy Birthday. Happy birthday to you, or happy birthday to ya. Sing that a few times. Wear some earplugs, which would block out some of the noise that you hear from others. So if you're like trying to over scream them, the earplugs will kind of get you to like lower your voice. And the last tip was change the pitch. So maybe I should try more
Nice.
Eagles.
And you just get loud. You just get a higher octave as the game goes on. So the second quarter, by the fourth quarter, you're like
whistle tones. Yeah, gonna have to pull out some of the choir vocal warm-ups.
Right.
Well, one thing I'm going to obviously watching the Super Bowl tonight this weekend, but to prepare for the Super Bowl, one of the things I'm going to do is try to learn the Gilly the King blow the whistle dance. Gilly the King, the rapper and podcaster, he has been dancing in front of his tricked out Eagles vehicle with his neighbors to blow the whistle after every victory over the last couple of months. And now people across Eagles Nation are doing this dance. And the Inquirer actually has a gamified instruction video on how to learn how to dance like Gilly. But I'm a terrible dancer, so I'm going to literally practice it using this guide on the Inquirer website, because on Sunday night on Broad Street, when inevitably Blow the Whistle is blasting from somebody's speakers, I want to be able to dance with my fellow Philadelphians properly.
Yeah, it's a lot of shoulders. It's a lot of crossing your legs, a lot of two-stepping.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Matt, I am gonna need video evidence of the dance. Just so you know.
Yeah, of course. Or I could just be the broom guy. The guy who pops up in the background while Gilly's dancing every time with his broom in the air. His name is Jake, and Gilly's bringing that guy to the Super Bowl. Did you know that?
Oh,
That's
nice.
cool.
That's so sweet. All right, well, let me get a go birds. 1, 2, 3.
Go
Birds.
that's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Our executive producer is Matt Katz, and our producers are Abby Fritz and Selena Say Reynolds. Our Hey Philly newsletter editor is Siani Cologne, and our host is me, Trinae Nuri. Music is by Philly's own Interminable, with additional music from All the Kimonos. If you enjoyed this episode and really all the episodes of this week, tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Philly. We'll be back Monday morning, hopefully tired, hopefully with a Super Bowl.
And hopefully no voice.
And no voices. Have a great weekend and be safe, y'all. Bye. Excuse me real quick. I've got a bit of a costume change. Hold on.
Pulling out the green. Are we all wearing green right now?
I mean, I'm wearing my Eagles long sleeve guy. Trinae, that jacket is fly as hell.
Oh my God.
What about this chain?
Oh.
You're all set.